case when the people who were inside the house could be accounted for at the clinics, at the hospital, the runaway phone was in a different tower. It's forensic, in my view, objective evidence, my lord. It speaks for itself. It's not man-made or someone saying this. The phone is picked up by Miloleki Tower, and that's where it was. Now, what has been shown to me, my lord, is a picture of a phone which we do not know who was the owner of this phone. But also, my lord, what Sergeant or Warrant Officer Musia said, as I've said earlier, I was not in court when Warrant Officer Musia testified, and I don't know how best can I. It is not my responsibility, my lord, to evaluate what the witness said before this court. So it's I'm not sure how can I assist. Even Advocate Nxumalo in what he's putting to me, because it is not my position, my lord, to evaluate. I was not even in court, so it's difficult for me to assist him in what he's putting it to me, insofar as the evidence that was led in this court, my lord.
Bengikushilo-ke lokho ngaphambilini ukuthi-ke bakhona-ke ufakazi-ke esakhuluma-ke nabo ngikhulumile-ke ngaye uMakhumalo, ngikhulumile ngaye-ke uZandile Khumalo, kanye futhi-ke nabangani-ke bongasekho uSenzimeyiwa, uTumelo kanye naye-ke uMthokozisi. Mayelana-ke lana-ke ntshengiswa-ke umakhalekhukhwini kwisithombe lesi engazi nokuthi-ke okabani-ke, kodwa-ke kunobufakazi-ke khona-ke akusiyena umuntu othi kwenzeka lokho, kodwa ubufakazi obushoyo ukuthi-ke ngesikhathi esithizeni kwakuyithawa ethize la le phone eyayixoshwa khona-ke, kodwa kathi-ke kamuva kwesiganeko uma abanye abantu bese-clinics, kodwa yona-ke le ifone yena-ke yabe itholakala ngaphansi kwenye ithawa. Ubufakazi-ke obukhona-ke lobo ukuthi-ke uWarrant Officer Musia yini ayishilo enkantolo, angazi-ke ukuthi ngalekelela kanjani lapho.
As I've indicated to you, Brigadier, that Constable Musia came with this information of this cell phone.
It's going down.
Can I have the phone?
It's going down.
My lord, I don't understand. Is the assertion that this cell phone is the one that was taken, so-called runaway phone? Because I'm trying to make sense. Like I said, forensic evidence speaks for itself as to what happened to that phone. What Warrant Officer Musia said in this court, I was not here, my lord. There's very little I can assist Advocate Nxumalo in that regard.
Angazi-ke ukuthi-ke lana-ke ingabe okusho Advocate Nxumalo ukuthi-ke lo makhalekhukhwini ovezwe lana uwona lona-ke owathathwa-ke wase uya-ke kolunye uhlangothi, ukuthi-ke yini eyakhulunywa uWarrant Officer Musia la enkantolo akukho engasiza ngakho.
Constable Musia came with that information, Brigadier, on the 5th of September 2023, and he provided this information to us as well as the state. Is there an investigation that has been done in order to identify the owner of that cell phone, which is appearing there?
There's a good case about Mr. Tumelo Madlala testified regarding this phone on the 7th of August 2023, page 36. He said he had a Samsung X-Ray white in color, and we've handed up, my lord, a list of all the phones that were confiscated, which includes this particular phone.
Umsheshisi uthi-ke uTumelo Madlala-ke ubufakazi abethula-ke washo ukuthi wayene Samsung S3 eyayimhlophe ngombala, futhi-ke kunama-phones-ke noma-ke uhla lwama-phones afaka phakathi-ke nayo-ke le iphone.
To sum up on this aspect, Brigadier, I must put it to you that there is no runaway phone. The phone that is depicted there is the phone that belonged to Miss Khumalo, the S4 cell phone.
It's not correct, my lord. We just put on record the evidence of Mr. Madlala. That proposition is not correct.
Akusona-ke iqiniso lokho phethe usho yena-ke Advocate Nxumalo ukuthi-ke ayikho ifone yathathwa-ke lapha, ukuthi yona-ke le phone siqeda ukusho-ke manje, noma umsheshisi uthi uqeda ukusho-ke manje ukuthi uTumelo Madlala wathola-ke ubufakazi ngalo makhalekhukhwini wathi owakhe.
Tumelo Madlala, my lord, testified that his cell phone, when the incident was happening, he went to the bedroom, in one of the bedrooms, where he hid his cell phone amongst the blankets on the bed. So it is not correct that the cell phone that is depicted there belongs to Tumelo Madlala.
Yeah, I'm listening. I need to comment on the evidence. I'm not going to.
I'm responding, my lord, to the submission by my colleague Advocate Baloyi. So I put it to you, Brigadier, that there is no runaway phone in this case.
No, but my lord, but that's misleading. There's forensic evidence speaking to that. I'm not sure now what is the assertion that evidence that is forensic and objective is compromised. I don't understand. There's evidence that the phone that was on the same tower before the incident happened was picked up at a different tower. It's there, my lord. I mean, I don't understand this assertion. And there was an incident, my lord, where, so you cannot correlate, you need to look at the events as how they unfolded, my lord. You cannot say when someone says, when the incident happened, I ran away, I hid my phone under the blanket. Then you ignore as to what happened until the forensic team arrived, because there were events that took place. That happened, subsequently the deceased was discovered that he shot, they moved the deceased to the hospital. there was movement. There was cell phone location of where that phone was. It speaks for itself, my lord. Subsequent to that, then they came back to the crime scene, and that's when the police then came to sort of like calm the scene. So it's not an isolated situation as if like when Nxumalo Udale went to the bedroom and hid his phone, he remained there until the police arrived. There were activities, they left, they came back, and the cell phone movement in terms of the analysis indicate what was happening insofar as his cell phone is concerned, but insofar as the runaway phone, which is completely incorrect with greatest respect to Advocate Nxumalo and misleading if he says there's no runaway phone, because there's objective forensic evidence that indicates that phone went to the Moleleki Tower.
Akusona ke iqiniso nokuthi ke futhi ke ukukhohlisa ke uma uAdvocate Nxumalo ethi ke ayukho ifone eyathathwa ke khona lapha ukuthi uNxumalo Madlala athi wathatha ke umakhalekhukhwini wakhe wase eyobeka ke ekamereni noma ewufaka ngaphansi kwazo-ke ingubo kukhona ke okwenzekile ke kusona leso sikhathi kuhanjiwe kwayiwa ke esibhedlela ngoba kwatholakala ukuthi ke umufi udutshuliwe useshonile futhi wahanjiswa ke wasiwe esibhedlela kwabuywa ke futhi ke kunobufakazi obukhona ke phambi kwenkantolo lena ke la ekwacwane kwakhona ke kwatholakala ukuthi ke kunefone uma nkathi amanye amafoni etholakala kwithawa ethize yona ke yabe ikwithawa ehlukile.
But there is no evidence from Nxumalo Udale that at some point his phone was on charger on a TV stand. The only evidence, that is why I had to refer you to the record and the statement of Mthokozisi. The only cell phone, the Samsung S4 cell phone, which was on charger when Constable Musia arrived at the scene and took photos, was the S4 cell phone belonging to Miss Kelly Kuman.
No, but who says that, my lord? Because I don't recall seeing that evidence in the docket, that the S4 of Miss Kelly Kumalo was found by the police. Contrary to that, it was taken. Where is that? It's not in the docket.
Akukho la ngithola khona noma ke ngibona khona kwidokodo ukuthi ke ifoni yakhe uMiss Kelly Khumalo yatholwa amaphoyisa. Akukho la kwidokodo kukhona lokho.
Which is what I was saying, Brigadier, earlier, indicating to you that this information of the photos of the cell phone on the TV stand came with Constable Musia on the 5th of September 2023, and nothing was done about that information.
But
up to now.
But I thought Advocate Baloyi just read the record of Nxumalo Udale indicating that this is his cell phone. And I'm saying there's objective evidence of cell phones that were inside the house in terms of their movement and where they were. And that is why you are able to see that when the others were moving to a certain direction, including the one that remained, I think it was put to me by Mr. Ramsipile that I think of the mother remained at the scene. This one that was taken off Miss Kelly Khumalo went to a different direction, and no one could account as to who was in possession of this phone except the intruders, because all the people who were inside the house could be accounted for at the hospital. That is the forensic evidence that is in the docket. There is nothing that suggests or indicates that that phone of Miss Kelly Khumalo was actually at the crime scene and was found by the police. There's no such assertion, my lord.
Akukho ke okushoyo ke noma ke kutholakalayo ukuthi ke le if cell phone lena ke yakhe uKelly Khumalo yayikhona lapha kwindawo yesigameko nokuthi yatholwa amaphoyisa. Ubufakazi ke buthi ke nkathi ke ama phone amanye lana etholakala kwithawa ethize yona ke iphone leyo yaya kwithawa ehlukile, futhi akekho ke umuntu owayekwazi ukuthi ayiphendule noma isho leyo ngaphandle ke kwabantu labo abangena ngaphakathi endlini.
One of the factors, Brigadier, was the issue of the DNA. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember, my lord.
Yebo ngiyakhumbula ke udaba ke mayelana nayo ke iDNA ulibofuzo.
You testified that the DNA in respect of the head, which was found at the crime scene, excluded the persons who were inside the house.
That is correct, my lord.
Ngishilo ke ukuthi yebo ke kulokho ke okwatholakala ukuthi kulo DNA leyo ke bakhipha ke abantu ababengaphakathi endlini.
My recollection, my lord, it was that the DNA that was picked up or collected insofar as that would have been donated by the suspects excluded everyone that was inside the house, and I read the exclusion markings except I think Ms. Zandi Kumalo, who was read in the Smirnoff can.
Engikushilo ke ngikhumbulayo ke ukuthi ke lokho kwatholakala ke ngokumayelana nabo ke basola kwakubakhipha labo ababesendlini ke ngaphandle kwakhe uMzandile Khumalo ke yena ke okwatholakala ke okwakhe kwikani leSmirnoff
or a liquor can, my lord, even if it's not Smirnoff. But I remember reading something that her DNA was right into that can, and that correlates with the fact that they were sitting and drinking. But insofar as the foreign DNA, they were excluded, my lord.
Noma ke ngasona ke iSmirnoff kodwa ke khona ke nje kanti tshwala ke atholakala ngoba ke lokho kuyahambisana ke nokuthi babehlizwi ke lapho bephuza.
Yes, the report is contained in Exhibit B7 of the record.
Yes, my lord.
At point 13, the Scotch head, that is a description of the exhibit, the Scotch head, it excludes suspects. The suspects were all persons who were inside the house. That is Mthokozisi, Kelly Khumalo, Nxumalo Udale, Longwe Twala, Zandile Khumalo, and Gladness Khumalo. So all these persons who were referred as suspects were excluded from the DNA of the Scotch head. You confirm that?
I agree, my lord.
Ngiyavuma ke uma kuthiwa kulesagqoko esatholakala laphana bonke labantu abesendlini ke amagama abo afundiwe ababechazwa ke nanjengabasolwa ukuthi ke akukho kwabo kwatholakala kulesi sigqoko.
Because there was also a report from the Biology Science Laboratory in Pretoria. It was compiled by Captain Mamshedi Phineas Masetla. It was handed in as Exhibit X12 of the record. Did you have sight of that report?
I was not in court obviously when he testified, my lord, but yes, I had sight of his report, the biology expert, my lord.
Uma ke Masetla ethi ubufakazi ngangekho enkantolo kodwa yebo umbiko wakhe wona ngawubona.
Did you analyze the report?
No, but my lord, I think we dealt with this part. When I tried to venture into that, I was told I'm not an expert, and I was referring to what I uncovered in consultation with the biology expert. To say when he was briefing me insofar as the analysis, in particular of this accused, what he told me. But there was aggressive objection in that part. So I'm not sure now. I'm not so sure, my lord, how to deal with this now.
That objection did it come from me, Brigadier?
No, it didn't. But it was a defense, my lord.
It did not come from me.
Kwakunenkinga ekhona ke uma ngangifuna ukuthi ngikhulume ngawo lo mbiko bengatshela ukuthi angisiyena ungoti kulokho yasho advocate Nxumalo ukuthi bangasimina ke lo owayenenkinga.
Understood, my lord. In fairness, advocate Nxumalo didn't object, so that's accurate.
The report, that is the report by Captain Masetla, Brigadier, it also excluded all the accused in respect of the Scotch head, which was found on the crime scene. That is according to the report by Captain Masetla.
Yeah, but you see, my lord, this is where we differ, and this is why I keep on saying you need to read this thing in its entirety. I've been saying this selection, it is not the same, my lord, as when you read the DNA of the people who were inside the house. There's complete exclusion. It is different with regard to this accused when they expect, and this was in consultation with him, where he says, I can read some of the accused in terms of the markers, but I do not have enough to make a conclusive finding, and therefore I'm going to say I'm excluding them. But it's a different situation, my lord, when he says there's complete exclusion. That's how I understood it. So we are not sitting with a report where he says, I cannot read them. He can read some of them. He explains who those he can read, and he gave reasons to me to say, because they don't reach or meet this region. I think it's 16 markers that they need. He therefore is an expert, cannot say he can read them, my lord.
Lana ke ingakho bengishilo ngaphambilini ukuthi ke umbiko lo noma mawubukwa ke noma ubhekwa ke akufanelanga ukuthi ke ufundeke noma ubheke indawo ethizeni kodwa ke ngokuphelele akufani ke nabantu ke abasendlini la kwatholakala ukuthi bona ke akukho kwabo ukutholakala lapho kodwa ke uma kuza kubasolwa ke washo ke uma ngihleli naye phansi ungoti lona ke ukuthi bakhona ke kubasola engikwazi ukuthi ke utholakala ukuthi khona kwabo ukutholakalayo la kodwa ngoba ke kune number thizeni noma ke inani elithize ekufanele litholakale kodwa uma lingatholakali ke ngizothi ke cha abatholakala noma ke akukho okwabo ukutholakalayo.
Yes, when I said read them, my lord, I'm referring to reading them into the DNA. In other words, he didn't say to me, we have 5 accused, these donors are completely excluded. There are those that he was able to exclude, to say these ones completely zero. But there were others where he can read certain markers, my lord, but he gave an explanation that because they're not enough, he will not be able to make a conclusion. And this is the part I dealt with when there was this objection, my lord. And that is why I'm saying, when you read this report, you can't just concentrate on the exclusion and ignore what the expert is telling you above, because it's one statement. It's telling you what he has done, what he has picked up, and it will form then a guidance of what you can, pursue.
Futhi ke engikushoyo noma ke ayekusho ke yena ukuthi asithi manje sihlezi ke nabasolwa ke abahlanu lana ke asho ukuthi bakhona ke lana ongatholi lutho ke bakhipha ke kodwa bakhona ke laba obonayo ukuthi ke yebo ke kukhona kwabo ukutholakala kodwa ngenxa ke yokuthi kunalama markers ke abawashoyo bona noma u7 noma u16 uma ungakutholi konke lokho ke yila umuntu umkhipha khona ke kodwa ke akufani nala khona ke ukuthi nje akunalutho olitholayo futhi ke ingakho ngisho ukuthi umbiko wakho mawufunda awukhethi nje okuthize kodwa uqala phezulu ke yila akutshela khona ukuthi ngenzeni ngase ngitholane egcineni.
This is what Captain Masetla said from the Forensic Science Laboratory. From the record of the 10th of October 2023 at page 2 of the record, line 13. My lord, what is important before I start checking whether I can find that DNA in the swab or in the head is that for us to say a person is included, you have to include the person in all the DNA regions. So reading a person in one single region does not mean that that person is included in the mixture. Those quotation.
But that's what I'm saying, my lord. For him to make a conclusive finding, he must read them in all. In other words, my lord, if there are 16, and that's my recollection, they must all tick. If he's running short of 2, if he's got only 14, he can't pronounce on the inclusion. That's how I understand the report and what it discussed to me. We are saying what has been read to me is what is my understanding, my lord.
Kodwa ufunda ke manje ke mina ke indlela ke nami engizwa ngayo ngiyazi ukuthi ke inumber u16 uthi ke yena ke uma entshela ke noma ke engikwaziyo ke uma kutholakala ukuthi ke umuntu noma ke iDNA itholakala ke mamakha awu14 loya 2 oseleke kuzosho ukuthi ke cha uyamkhipha ngoba ke kufanele ukuthi ingeneke kuona onke noma ke kuthikeke kulawo mamakha awu16 ephelele.
So in essence, Brigadier, we are on the same page. I don't know what is causing this whole debate.
No, we are not in the same page.
We are in the same page.
No, we are not. You are referring to the complete exclusion. He refers to regions, what I call markers. You then cannot ignore what he says, for example, on region 1, region 2, region 3, region 4, up to region 16. Because then if you're looking at the evidence objectively, you need to see if in all these regions, if there are 16, is he completely excluding your client, for example, or not? And if he reads them according to his expertise, you can't ignore that. It's there. And if it's not then yes, we're on the same page. My understanding of that report is not what it's saying. There's no complete exclusion. If you go, there are accused where he will say complete, but others in the regions can be read. And I'm saying based on what is contained in the report and what he said to me when we consulted.
Asikhulume noma asisho ke into eyodwa ngoba wena ke mawukhuluma ke ukhuluma ngokuthi nje cha akutholakali lutho kodwa yena ke indlela asho ngayo noma ayichaza ngayo ke ukuthi yebo bakhona basolwa abangatholakali uma ubheka kodwa bakhona ke labo uma ke uhamba ngalama regions ngokulandelana kwawo ke abatholakalayo asithi ke mhlambe ke isibonelo uma iclient akutholakala kwe eyodwa kodwa ke kuhlukile nokuthi ke awutholakali nje kuma region onke kodwa kufanele uhambe ngalo ma region ngokulandelana kwawo.
Where we agree, my lord, is that at the end he was unable to link them and he made the exclusion. There we agree, but not that he could not find any of the accused in the regions.
La esivumelana khona ukuthi ke egcineni ushilo ke ukuthi ngenxa ke yokuthi akuphelele noma ke akutholakala kuma regions onke ke uyabakhipha ke yila esivumelana khona.
In respect of my client, Mr. Mapisa, on the 10th of October 2023 at page 5 of the record, line 20, Captain Maseta says the following. So for us to read somebody, we have to read that particular person in all the DNA readings. So in that case, we will not continue with Mapisa because we can see that he is excluded in that particular swap. So we will just do the head as well on the same suspect, which is Mapisa.
My lord, and we're now going back to the evidence that was led before this court when I'm not here. Because if one has to look at the Captain Maseta's evidence, one will have to be acquainted with the entire record. Now I was not in court, so a piece of his evidence, which is clear from what is being read, that is coming from somewhere, and it would have continued at the bottom. It's selected. How do I assist, my lord? And that's why I said if it comes to where myself and Advocate Mnisi are in agreement, is that the conclusion was that there's exclusion. Here we agree. But the reading, it's where now I'm saying some of the accused are read. So the portion that is reading to me refers to the exclusion, and I'm in agreement with him. But I'm saying in the regions, you need to analyze each accused according to the regions as to what the expert is saying. Then you can then comfortably make that conclusion that indeed he doesn't appear in all the regions, and then it's a complete exclusion. But if he reads them in some of the regions, as much as he says, my lord, yes, I'm excluding them, but he gives reasons that because I don't have all the markers, there's a medical term that they're using, my lord, they are not fitting in. He can therefore not pronounce that there is a link, my lord. Nxumalo. Sorry, my apologies. My apologies, not that witness.
Lana ke okushoyo ke noma ke inkulumo la eyokuthi ngishaphinda futhi ke sibuyele emuva ke la ngifundela khona ubufakazi enkathi ke ngangekho enkantolo angizwanga ukuthi ufakazi loyo uthini ke kodwa ke engikushoyo noma engakusho mina ke ukuthi kufanele uma sifunda umbiko wakhe ke yena ke uCaptain Maseta ukunala ashoyo ke khona ukuthi lo umsolo cha noma ke wabheka u16 ke lama regions akatholakali nako yodwa kula u16 kodwa ke bakhona ke la athi khona ke mhlambe kwamabili kwamathathu kwamahlanu uyatholakala ke kodwa ke akufani ke lokho kukhona la kunabasola abangatholakali nje lutho inhlobo khona kube khona ke la athi khona ke yebo bakhona ke abatholakalayo kodwa ke akwanele ngoba ke akatholakali kuona o16 ama region egcineni ke usethi ke cha lo muntu loyo akwazi ukuthi ke uyamfaka ngoba akekho kuona o16.
On the 10th of October 2023 at page 7 of the record, at line 12, Captain Maseta said the following. Even if we were to get DNA on the one that we did not get, it will not make a difference because we already have DNA on the other regions where he is excluded. So in terms of the swap, as well as if we look at the head as well, Mapisa Msogoziseni as well is excluded.
But my lord, I answered this part. I don't know how to deal with it because he says exactly what I'm saying. And if you listen to what Advocate Nxumalo has said, the captain says where he cannot read him in other regions. Giving an inference, if you read that means there are regions where he can pick him up, because it doesn't make a complete exclusion. He says in other regions, giving exactly what I'm saying, that he could pick him up in other regions, but because it's not a complete circle, he is then unable to pronounce on the complete exclusion. But he can read him. Based on that sentence, it's telling you there are regions where he can pick him up.
Uma ulalela nje lokho kufundwa yoko la athi khona ke ngoba ke kwamanye engatholakala ama regions kwamanye ke etholakala okusho ukuthi ke akusho ukuthi nje akatholakala inhlobo nje khona ke ama regions la atholakala khona kodwa ke gcineni ngoba ke engatholakala kuona onke ke akakwazi ukuthi ke angenza isinqumo sokuthi ke cha uyamfaka ke kufanele ukuthi abe uyamkhipha kanjani.
What is the problem with this evidence? I thought DNA evidence was clear, unless we don't understand it.
I do understand.
How many regions did we say become conclusive?
May I go to the record?
Yeah. It's like fingerprints. You find a person's fingerprints, they've got 5 portions of identification similar to that person. And then it's not 7. Because the other 2 fingerprints, which have to make it conclusive to 7, are not there. An expert cannot say that evidence is conclusive. But it doesn't follow that if it's not conclusive, it means there's 0. Is that not what you're trying to tell us?
That's what I'm trying to say, my lord.
I mean,
I think the debate is on the fact that
no. Me, I'm talking about the science, not.
he is excluded.
Yes.
Doesn't mean when he says you are excluded, it means there's no scintilla of evidence.
No, but he says that in order to read him, you must read him in all the region.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I'm
Then
saying.
there are regions in which he cannot read him, so he's excluded.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Baloyi.
As a court, please, I think my learned friend, whilst he's correct that the final conclusion was that because he couldn't, Captain Masetla couldn't read the DNA of accused number 4 on all the 16 regions.
16 regions, yeah.
He excluded him, but he read him on 4 of the regions.
Yes.
Is the first one the male, the second one D8S1179. He can read him in that. The 6th one is D3S1358. He can read him into that. And the second last one is D5S818. He can also read him into that. So he can read him into 4 of the 16 regions. So now, because it doesn't mean they meet the minimum threshold,
Yes.
hence the final. And that's precisely what
Yeah, that's what it
Brigadier
means. So, are we on the same boat?
I'm going to argue later. I'm going to argue later differently.
No. You did it. That's why I'm making it simpler for you. Fingerprints, they've got to be 7 to be conclusive, right?
Yes.
If an expert picks up 5 fingerprints,
Yes.
it's inconclusive. But it doesn't follow that my fingerprints were not there. And for legal purposes, you cannot convict a person on that evidence because it is insufficient. Am I wrong or right?
Indeed, ma'am. It's insufficient.
Yes, sir.
Yes. My lord, I see that it's 12:59.
Yeah, okay, no, fine. I think some of us must go and read DNA analysis because it surely on this up and down it means we don't understand it completely. That's why I even made an example with you guys when I said I once handled a case in 1982 where an ANC operative, they picked up 5 of his fingerprints when he was pasting a placard. The state called Stadler. Stadler was an expert on fingerprints. He came with about 270,000 samples of fingerprints. And when he analyzed them, he said there are no 5 which are identical. We got a guy from Scotland Yard who was arguing like you are arguing, that if one fingerprint is off the way, you cannot make a conclusion that necessarily the fingerprints of that guy are all not there. There have got to be 7 there will be 7 for a conviction to follow. So you can have 5 fingerprints on the window there, but because they are not 7, it's insufficient. You're acquitted.
Yes.
But it doesn't follow.
Similar in this case.
That's it. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Even in this case, this is what Masetla was saying.
Then the acquittal follow.
No, it means there's insufficient DNA evidence. That's all it means.
No, I
That's
understand.
different from there is no DNA evidence. Two different aspects. Are you with me?
No, I'm with you.
That's it, yeah. And this is what Brigadier Gininda is trying to tell us.
Indeed, my lord.
So he's excluded.
You remind me of the guys who are saying, and I hope there are no persons with soft memories here. Is it lunchtime?
Yes.
I defended a guy years back in a maintenance case. And this guy is a clever of Soweto. He says, Bra Griefs. Ow. Excellent stan. Ian Kier. So he's called Titi. Meaning, I just made love to this lady one round. And he tells me, he's pregnant. Ah, that can you smoke a beer. So according to this guy, you'll fall into for 101 days. Okay, so no.